You're probably the best person to ask this question, because I could go to a Miami guy to ask this question, but almost sometimes in this type of situation with what's happening at Miami, you talk about implosion. It's almost you get the straighter take from the rival, from the chief rival. So I'm going to ask you this: it can't all just be Manny Diaz, is it? And it's not all just 7-5, because you guys just went 5-7. What is going on there? Is it Mark Richt losing the confidence of players based on the way he handled the quarterback situation?
Yes. And if you were being real, like I got a chance to try to be real with these guys, and I don't troll. I might laugh and I might joke, but I love college football and I love rivalries. So I just talk about it straight up. I mean, your future, the quarterback that should have been playing was your guy who came in your last class, who you stole from Kentucky. Very good, very talented. Now you don't have to worry about him anymore because he's transferring. He's going to enter the portal, and all is lost on that. But if he goes back to Kentucky, he can probably argue for the saying he need to get closer to home or whatever BS he wants to come up with. But Miami fans have this confidence, and they are stuck in the 80s, in the early 90s. And I get it. Like, that was a good time, and it's always bring the U back, the bad boys. And I grew up watching those guys and absolutely loved it. But even the early 2000 team wasn't the Hurricanes of the 80s. They were their own unique identity. Mark Richt is not a bad boys Miami identity guy. Maybe he was, but nobody dislikes Mark Richt. He's like the second closest thing anybody's ever had to Coach Bowden. You may hate FSU, but nobody hated that. Nobody hated Coach Bowden. Like, that wasn't our identity. Our identity was they hate us but love our coach. Like, maybe they should have done that, but they're trying to embrace these old adages and not allowing something new to happen. So when Mark Richt comes in, he tries to embrace it, and that's so not Mark Richt. Mark Richt is Philippians 4:13. He is not Coke in boat parties. And that's what, so you got to figure it out what it is. So when Mark comes down, he looks more like a guy going through midlife crisis than he does the Mark Richt that was at Georgia. I promise, had Mark Richt just brought what he did at Georgia to Miami and followed it to a T, Miami would be exactly where they believe they should be. But he tried to stay in the state, what they call it, the state of Miami, without understanding that Florida is now a national treasure. You don't just go to Florida State, Florida, Miami. Heck, it was a time when the 3 stars or 2 stars were like, I'll just walk on to Florida State. I'll walk on to Florida. Nah, not now. If you're a 3-star kid, you can go to South Florida 2 years, boom, you're the man. You can get to the league. You can go to UCF, which is way more attractive. They're playing a good brand of football. So, or you can go to Ohio State, Alabama, whoever. They're getting who they want out of the state consistently. Miami's not. They can't protect their own borders, and it's because they don't have an identity that they can relate to. Secondly, Mark Richt's problem at Georgia was similar to what Jimbo Fisher faced at Florida State. You're an offensive-minded coach. You refuse to let the reins go to somebody else. So when this offense isn't successful, it looks boring and old. So you're running a pro-style system with a fullback. Wide receivers, the guys who run, they want to be in a wide open offense where it looks like they're flinging it around. And you have failed the quarterback position. And you're doing things that are just so antiquated. Like, you waited for your nephew for the class of 2020 to commit. So you decided that you didn't want to recruit any other quarterbacks until you found out what your nephew was doing, and your nephew committed somewhere else. Like, that's got to make Christmas dinners weird. And stuff like that. But you turn a guy, a young man who was up here in the Jacksonville area who's committed to Alabama for 2020, who literally was a Miami fan. So Miami fans are seeing this ineptitude when it comes to recruiting. They're seeing an abysmal offense, and they're seeing that the only thing that's pushing this team forward is an overly aggressive defense that at times puts themselves in bad positions when they can't get turnovers. I.e., the formula to beat Miami: don't turn the ball over, don't panic, and you will beat Miami. Everybody has seen that, and they figured that out. And Manny Diaz is the architect and the only thing that you had good. And he was a recruiter. Banda was a recruiter, and Manny Diaz is probably going to pull more guys from out of there. So, I mean, hell, Banda was was mixing drinks 4 years ago. So like your defensive coordinator is a bartender. Like that's like, I mean, without making it sound bad, this is what it is. And I feel bad because I love Ron Dugans, and I want to Ron Dugans is probably going to leave. So if Ron Dugans leaves, your class is really going to implode because your two top recruiters, who are some of your best offensive minds, aren't really engaged like they need to be. So, and it comes down to this too: Miami doesn't have, no matter what they want to say, Miami does not have the money to be able to compete and pay coaches. And we're in the era we're going to probably pay Art Browse $1.5 million. Miami can't pay $1.5 million to their coordinators because they have their budget is not for that. They couldn't afford to build a 100-yard football field. So I definitely know they can't afford to pay coaches. So I mean, these are all things that people are using. They really needed some wins, like with getting to Hazelwood, but that's not going to happen. They really needed some things to go their way. And what's going to be worse is they're going to lose the two very good linebackers, and they didn't bring in, and 8 guys like Avery Huff are entertaining Florida State and other places. So even in their class right now, there's still a lot of instability in it.